The video you are about to watch is from an old woodworking magazine that I published during the years of 2003 to approximately 2006. This was a very unique magazine. It was purely video content and it was distributed on DVDs. The magazine ran for approximately 3.5 years, and then due to financial concerns, we simply had to terminate the magazine. We moved on to other things over the last roughly 15 years. However, there has been a request to resurrect this content, so I've gone through the trouble to get the equipment, the products, everything I needed in order to bring this content back to life to share with everyone. Here on this YouTube channel, we'll be putting up approximately 100 to 120 of the original stories that appeared in that magazine. The magazine was called Woodworking at Home Magazine, and it was truly one of a kind in the world. I really hope you enjoy these videos, and please tell your friends about them.
Welcome to A Turn for the Better. I'm Dick Singh. There's always a problem of making things for your friends and families. Someone always wants something special. Well, here's a nice little project. It's a jewelry change key dish. Mother sometimes gets angry when you throw your keys and change on the dresser top. So here's a little dish that has a tile in the bottom. Won't be harming it. Looks decent. Just a nice little turning. It's kind of fun. I use tiles. You can get them. A lot of the turning centers have them. Any place that handles craft supplies may have them. If not, even just a plain dish will protect your dresser. So let's get started. Okay, today we're going to be using a piece of walnut, roughly 6 inches in diameter, probably close to 1.5 inches thick. Species, wood, anything you have will do. Okay, orientation sometimes becomes a problem for folks. This is going to be my bottom on count of sapwood, which being the bottom will be turned away. I've already pre-drilled my holes for my faceplate, and I've also found the center with my compass, which helped to locate and center the faceplate. Now, one of my pet peeves is screws in a faceplate. I'm using sheet metal screws. If you use drywall screws, normally they're smaller in diameter and do not fill the hole, which allow the workpiece to shift on the faceplate if you have a catch. Another thing, being hard, drywall screws have a tendency to snap. I have mounted my piece of walnut on the lathe, and we're getting ready to take and turn it. I'm just using a 1/2 inch spindle gouge. Lathe is roughly 1200 RPM, maybe 1198. I'm using a pulling cut. I am riding the bevel. If you notice, keep your tool rest in close. You don't want any bad catches. What I'm basically doing is getting my shape. Now we're going to be using a chuck in an expansion mode. So I'm going to have to take and cut a rebate into the bottom of the piece. But up until then, I'm just going to get what I consider a pleasing shape here. I'm going to throw just a wee bit of OG curve into this. Not a lot, just a little. I'm not a big fan of a heavy OG. What I have to do is lay out my hole. Okay, that will give me an area to hollow out for my expansion mode on my chuck. I'm using a little scraper to go into the corners and make that my dovetail. I've removed the screws from the faceplate, taken it off, put my chuck on, and now we are going to install it in an expansion mode. Make sure it's always against the tightness of the jaws, and don't tighten it so tight that you chip away where your jaws go in on the dovetail. I'm still running basically the same speed that I was. I'm just going to take a quick cut off the very edge to make sure it's trued up. Now I'm going to start hollowing out. Now I'm still using my spindle gouge, 3/8 spindle. Okay, I'm going to change to a different spindle gouge. It has a different grind. The one on the top has been ground similar to a bowl gouge, being more acute angle. Now this is my normal spindle grind. It probably would work most of the way down, but this one will make an easier cut down to the bottom of the bowl. Now here's where this one will come into effect much better. I can follow my wall down and swing across my bottom and come straight across, where with the spindle gouge I would be following out on the side of the bowl. We have to start planning for putting this tile into the bottom. We're going to use this one with the little automotive scene on it. When you start putting this in here, it becomes a problem of hanging on to it, as you can see. What I like to do is take a piece of tape, leave enough to hold on to. Now I have a means of holding that tile and positioning it. This is roughly a 3.5 inch tile. Okay, that's just a little undersize, which we wanted. I would rather fit it to it than try and add wood. At this point, I'm going to take a small scraper, little 1/4 inch scraper, and go in and start making our depression. Get my tool rest in a little closer. That should do our side wall. Now I'm going to take and go across the bottom and flatten that out. Okay, there we are. Now I have just a small amount of movement. We don't want it locked in there so tight. If the wood moves and it's up tight against the disc, something has to give. So give it a little bit of room for expansion. Now I'm going to be using a pull cut again. I'm just going to start at the back. Now remember, we're using our body to move ourselves so we get a nice, smooth, even cut. Now this is not a shear cut. I am riding the bevel. want to take a little more off of here from my own eye. Now remember to be a little bit congenial with your tools here on account of you're holding in an expansion mode. And you're actually pushing away from the chuck, which is not the best of situations. I'll work the very edge of that rim, but just remember, be careful. There's not much material there. There we go, it's cleaned up. Before we start shaping the inside, we better determine exactly what we need. As you can see, we have a high condition here where we have to make this basically the same height as what our tile is. So keep that in mind as we go in and redefine our shape. That should bring it pretty close. And it does. Now I'm going to take one more cleanup cut, and I don't want to go any deeper than what I am. Just want a nice clean surface. Use your body to make nice smooth movements. I'm starting with 240. My surface is pretty good. If you don't have that good of a surface, be sure to start with paper that is adequate to take care of any bad spots that you have. I have worked my way down to 400, and probably that's about as far as I really need to go. But I have one of the things that I say you cannot get all the scratches out, the concentric scratches, with the lathe running. Even a piece of paper will mark it. So I like to stop the lathe and sand the piece at the end. Okay, right now I happen to have a piece of 600 in my hand. Just to finish sand this out so there will be no concentric marks. I'm going to use my favorite finishes, which initially I give my piece just a good sloppy coat of Deft, straight out of the can. I like the semi-gloss. As you can see, I'm really concerned about brush strokes. I'll give the whole bowl a coat. Now I'll take a paper towel and just wipe it off. Now what I have is tung oil and 4/0 steel wool. And I'll actually go in and just basically scrub the surface and take all that Deft off the surface. This will leave an oiled finish, but if you notice there's kind of a slurry being built up, and I feel that goes into the pores and kind of acts like a filler. And just wipe it off. To clean up the bottom, we don't want anybody to really know how we held it. I'm going to reverse chuck this with a piece of MDF, which is medium density fiberboard. Okay, I'm going to make a little recess that's going to hold this. Now the spot that's going to hold this is the very highest spot on the outside of the bowl. It doesn't need to be any deeper than, say, maybe 1/8 of an inch, or just slightly past the highest point. And the only other factor, you want a good flat surface on the bottom that this will set against to help hold it and keep it in alignment. I'm using a parting tool. I'm also lining the parting tool up with the bed of the lathe. That will give me a vertical wall on this recess. Easy does it on that last one. It's always that last cut that you mess up on. I'm taking my 3/8 spindle gouge and I'm going to clean up the base. Always seems like we want to make it look like we didn't hold it on a lathe. Seems to be the main thing everyone wants to do. So where I have the recess that I held with the expanding jaws, I'm going to eliminate that. Okay, one of the things I've come to do is make a small radius Everything feels pretty good. Foot is flat. Time to sand. Again, I'm going to use the Deft as my base coat and my oil. I'm going to take it out. The only thing we have left to do now is glue our tile into our dish. Being a hard tile and a wooden dish, we have to use a glue that will have some flexibility. So I will be using a silicone adhesive. Locate your tile to where you think it looks best for your grain. Spread it around just a little bit. Make sure nothing comes out the sides. And now we have our jewelry dish complete. I hope you've enjoyed this issue segment. And this is Dick Singh saying thank you.
I sincerely hope you enjoyed watching this video. If you truly enjoyed it, please help us share this information with the rest of the communities. Please hit the subscribe button, give us a big thumbs up, and be sure to tell your friends about this channel. Thanks again for watching.